Parsboro Community Radio listeners. Welcome to Exploring the Neighborhood with your hosts, Thor and Debbie, here on CICR 99.1 on your FM dial. We'd like to thank Kanza as the sponsor for our show.
For those of you who are not aware, Kanza is Cumberland County's only Careers Nova Scotia Centre and a vital participant in this area's road to prosperity. This year, Kanza is celebrating 15 years of serving the area and providing valuable employment and educational opportunities. Our goal for Exploring the Neighborhood is to take you on a series of half-hour adventures that include road trips, candid interviews, and commentaries.
We'll focus on the area's homegrown businesses, unique landmarks, and emerging talent. We're hoping to shine a well-deserved light on the local endeavors that promote eco-friendliness and self-sufficiency.
And we are at the Joggins Fossil Museum, and I'm sitting here in the museum with Jordon.
Hi, Thor.
Jordon, we met in some church.
Yeah, it was the luncheon that the United Church puts on in River Hibbert.
Yes, and we just casually sat down with you and ruined your meal.
No, it's good company.
And I talked you into an interview, which it took us all summer to get this thing together.
That's right.
And we're finally here, and we're finally going to talk about Joggins and the Fossil Museum. And this is the pièce de la résistance, so to speak. Go. It is one of the main driving reasons people visit this desolate shoreline.
I wouldn't call it desolate, maybe exciting.
I think it is. Yeah. We have seen an incredible increase in cars and tourists this year. What happened?
I like to think it's because I came on this summer, but I really know it's probably because of the American dollar. I think that's a very strong driving factor this season.
Blame the dollar. I like that.
Yeah, it's a legit thing. It's something that we actually notice on paper, but also anecdotally at the front desk.
And the numbers have been staggering.
They have been. We haven't crunched the numbers on our visitation, but obviously they're up. The parking lot's full almost every day. Our staff are constantly giving full tours. It's been a busy summer, yeah.
I'd like to think it's our radio show.
Yes, all right. I'll factor that into the annual report.
People have been coming here in droves, as they would say. We've seen motorcycle tours, and it's been quite impressive. RVs.
Yeah, lots of RVs, always popular. Every kind of visitor you can imagine comes through here in July and August.
What type of visitors would you call them?
We say that they're experiential tourists, so they're interested in actually experiencing something. They don't want to go and see something static. They actually want to hands-on involve themselves that way.
The leftovers from Lunenburg.
Well, actually, it's been proven that the majority of tourists that enter the province come across the New Brunswick border, and they probably hit us first, and then Lunenburg would get our leftovers.
I think it's the $4 toll. It's killing them.
Yeah, that $4 toll, huh?
Thank God they didn't put up the other toll in New Brunswick they were talking about.
Absolutely. I was following that quite as much as I could. I was quite concerned there for a while.
It would have been devastating.
It would have been hard. I think, honestly, for a fact, it would have been hard on our visitation. Any kind of barrier to entry. I mean, the fact that we're already half an hour off the main highway, I think if you increase that barrier to entry anyways, that's going to make it harder for us, for sure.
But then again, if you have something that attracts people, like the wild caraway, they're non-stop.
You have eaten there, right?
I know.
Well, then that should be enough of a telling, yeah.
But it's literally an hour and a half away from anything.
Yeah, but it's the kind of thing you remember. Yeah, that meal.
Is.
That service, yeah.
So Joggins is like that as well?
Our tours are, absolutely. I would for sure say that what people remember most and what they talk about most on TripAdvisor is coming here, coming to the Fossil Center, and getting a guided beach tour at the Fossil Cliffs, absolutely.
So this tour, what do people see when they come?
They go onto the beach with one of our experienced guides, and they get to see fossils in the cliffs on the beach and actually get identification. So if a regular person were to walk on the beach without anyone's help, they would see fossils, but they might not know what they are, or they might not be able to identify them. But our guides actually kind of bring it to life.
a lot of what we had experienced on the tour was explained by coming here even in more detail, which is great.
That's what we hope for. We actually recommend people kind of go through our museum first before they go into the beach, so it kind of sets that foundation to build upon. Absolutely.
Tell us, what do people find here? I mean, are they going to find a T-Rex, one of those woolly elephants? Or?
You know, people come here looking for them, but honestly, everything we have is older than the dinosaurs. So we often let people know that right up front, that you will not find dinosaurs, that our stuff predates that.
Wow, like alligators?
Usually it's a lot of plant life. Joggins used to be very tropical. You wouldn't be able to know it by walking out today, but we used to be very, very warm.
Trees. We've
lots
seen
of trees. Yeah, lots of trees, but these were like tropical plants. Kind of like some of the ones we have in the hallway. They're tropical as opposed to the hardwoods we have today.
Did you find any prehistoric coconuts?
We did not find any prehistoric coconuts. That is the dream, though.
Joggins' dream, to find a coconut. Anyone out there? We challenge you to find a coconut. We're in an office, so the phones will keep ringing. Don't worry about it. This is live, pre-recorded. Tell us about this plant life that existed multiple years ago.
Hundreds of millions.
350 million being thrown around.
That's a relevant number, yeah. Ours are around the 310, 325 range. The way I describe it is they were watery, like bamboo, somewhat already hollow. Some of the plants were like that. And some of them, this is going to be really low key, I compare them to celery because they're very fibrous. So when you cut one in half, you weren't seeing the rings of a tree that you would today, where you could actually count the rings. You were seeing more like a fibrous, kind of mushy, watery inside.
When you pick them up, they're solid rock.
So that's fossilized, so all that moisture is absolutely gone, and what you're actually left is with a stone cast of what that tree looked like.
And the tree can weigh hundreds, if not...
Oh yes, it can put your back out, that's right.
So don't try and lift those trees, people. Just stare at them, take pictures.
Yeah, let us know about them, take pictures, get selfies with them.
They have roots as well that you can
Absolutely. We find a lot of roots, the idea being that their roots are already buried underneath the soil, so they're pretty much halfway to being fossilized at that point. They fossilize much more rapidly.
Do you find insects?
We do, and that's a little bit more rare, but absolutely they've found insects. They've found the versions of dragonflies, of scorpions, absolutely. But the fascinating thing about the insects is they were much, much, much bigger than what we would have today.
You found the scorpions.
Someone did. People. They have found
Playing the winds of change?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's the winds of change.
Prehistoric scorpions. They've been around that long.
I'm pretty sure we have scorpion fossils in there.
And reptiles, I heard you're famous for.
That's the big one, and that was a really significant check mark on the evolutionary box. Was the very first reptile ever found in the world.
And what was it?
Hylonomus lyelli. Kind of looks like a little lizard, kind of gecko almost, as far as the bone structure goes.
And obviously extinct in the area right now. Absolutely
extinct in the area now, but is kind of the grandfather to all reptiles and dinosaurs and everything that branched off from that.
So is there a little laboratory here, like in Jurassic Park, where you try and recreate these reptiles?
We do have a laboratory. We don't try to recreate it, but interestingly enough, when I give my tours, I do a Carboniferous Park tour. I basically give the instructions on if you want to start your own Carboniferous Park. So in Jurassic Park, they found the mosquito in the amber. In Joggins, they found the reptile inside the tree.
What was the reptile doing inside the tree?
Two theories on that one. One was that it was living there and got buried there in its home. And the other theory is that it fell in by accident and was buried there rapidly. Personally, I don't have the answer, and we're still searching for that mysterious identification.
So do you have this DNA that goes along with that?
The DNA, no, unfortunately, is just all stone.
It's all stone.
If it was in the ember, sure, we'd probably get some DNA, but now we just have, like, essentially a rock cast of what this creature looked like.
How big is it?
A little bit bigger than your open palm.
That's small.
It was pretty small, yeah, and when you look at it, it's not altogether exciting unless you have the scientific wherewithal behind it. One thing, too, before I kind of lead anyone astray, is this fossil is technically not here in Joggins. It was found here, but is now in London, England.
They took it from us.
They found it, and the cool thing at the time was to take all these finds back to England.
For who?
The Geological Society of London, something along those lines.
Oh, the important people.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was the thing, yeah.
All right. Jordon, how did this building and this world begin in Joggins?
A little bit of a history lesson on this one, and I'll try not to mess it up, and if I forget anyone's names, I apologize now. So, once upon a time, there was a man named Reid, and he's known as the Keeper of the Cliffs. And he had a very extensive fossil collection, and he opened up a museum in Joggins. First it was in his garage, then later on in a building up the road. And that museum is called the Joggins Fossil Center.
Is that similar to, I know his last name is George in Parisborough?
Eldon George?
Yeah.
I like to think it's a very similar connotation, yeah. So he had his fossil center, and I'm going to start where I remember because I was actually a teenager when he had the Joggins Fossil Center up the road. He had this wonderful collection of fossils. This was before Joggins was a UNESCO site. Reid, as well as an entire list of people involved with the project, decided that, Joggins should be a UNESCO World Heritage Site. They're that important that we should be recognized on a global stage for the fossils that we have here and the finds that were found. That was begun, couldn't tell you the year. We got on the list, the 10 tentative UNESCO sites that the federal government puts forward to the United Nations. And in 2008, our time came up. It was the right time for us. So the United Nations inscripted us onto the World Heritage List, and we became UNESCO. So we are now UNESCO World Heritage Site. And Reid, the amazing man, donated both his collection of fossils and the business name Joggins Fossil Center to the Joggins Fossil Institute. And the Joggins Fossil Institute is the charity that is in charge of overseeing the UNESCO World Heritage Site. So this was kind of like the organization that was created to go through the nomination process and get us on that list. So when I explain it, you and I right now are sitting in the Joggins Fossil Center, which has the museum, gift shop, all that good stuff. We take tours on the Joggins Fossil Cliffs, and the people that look over both those things is the Joggins Fossil Institute, or as I like to say more importantly, they write my paychecks.
So your paychecks come from this UNESCO place?
They come from the charity, the Joggins Fossil Institute charity. We actually get zero funding from UNESCO. That's an important thing to distinguish. A lot of people think that you're on the list, you get the money, but no, it's more of a recognition thing. We get our funding from the province, as well as our daily operations, as well as some support from the County of Cumberland, who happens to own the building.
Complicated?
It is, especially when it comes to Joggins Fossil Institute versus Center versus Cliffs, those three things. So we're actually revamping our website because of that. We want to make things a little bit easier for the visitor side. If they want to get into how the sausage is made, great. We don't mind explaining that. But just as far as the simplicity from the public end, sure, that's what we're working towards.
And what are these parts of the cliffs that say no access?
So there are certain areas of the cliffs that have been designated a United Nations World Heritage Site. They're kind of not accessible by just traversing them. You either need like a helicopter or a boat to get to them.
Oh, so it's strictly a safety issue.
It is. It's really just there's no access to get to it to study it as far as just walking or driving.
Because those are always the sites that look more interesting.
Oh, of course. I mean, but no, there's no armed guards. There's no policing. It's not like we're going to come down there and pull you off it. It's really just an accessibility issue.
All right. It's like that do not touch sign. People
Oh,
are
of course. They want to. Absolutely.
You don't have to go far. We took the tour and you find fossils literally everywhere.
Absolutely. At the moment you step off the steps, you can actually see some, and that's a wonderful part of why the fossil cliffs are so special.
Now, you operate how many months a year?
We go from Earth Day, which is April 22nd, to Halloween, October 31st. So Earth Day, being the United Nations Earth Day, and Halloween just being a good bookend. So we're open to the public. You can walk through the doors between that time, and then we're open by appointment in the off season.
And for the listeners that want to come explore, what are the prices?
Great question. So it starts off at about $10.50 per person, taxes in, but the more people you bring with you, the cheaper it gets. We have group rates, which I won't get into. I'll just let you know that they exist. And that covers your guided beach tour for half an hour, and it covers admission to the gallery.
And you have plenty of parking, usually, although this year it's been quite full.
Yeah, usually we have more than overflow parking, but this year I've seen it completely filled up and then up the road a little bit. It's a nice problem to have, but...
When you live in the area, it's like those darn tourists,
Oh yeah, that's it, yeah.
My Sunday.
Taking up my parking, yeah.
For that $10, what do they get?
They're going to get admission to our gallery, so that's that collection of fossils. Again, many of them found by Reid, many of them found by other staff members and volunteers of the area. So it's kind of the interpretation and the history of all those fossils, as well as Joggins itself. And then a half an hour guided beach tour by one of our amazing guides. And the beach tour is, in my opinion, where it's at. Like, that's the experience people remember the most. It's great learning about the fossils, but actually getting to go on the beach, find them with your own hands, and get them identified by our guides. It's a wonderful experience. So that's what your money gets you.
And we heard there's a rumor that people can volunteer to help out here.
Yeah, we have an education coordinator who's helping with getting a volunteer programming up and running. Right now we have a volunteer board of directors, but we're also looking into more ways that people can volunteer, and whether that's with research or whether that's with something as simple as landscaping, and everywhere is in between.
Yeah, because I definitely have a stepson who's interested in volunteering.
Excellent. We want to nurture that interest.
People that are interested, all those listeners that are going, I need to dig up fossils, or I need to hang out on the beach and find an excuse to do it. Who do they contact? What's the number? What's the email?
The email is education@jogginsfossilcliffs.net. That's a really big mouthful, so I often tell people just search that. Just search Joggins, the website, and tack that onto the end of the email address. So that's education@jogginsfossilcliffs.net. And the phone number is 902-251-2727. And there's an extension in there somewhere, maybe 224, but that's just a guess off the top of my head. But you get a hold of any one of us and we'll pass you along to the right person.
Okay.
We all have different specializations and areas of expertise, so we work as a great team, but oftentimes it's like, oh, Jordan's the person you want to be talking on this one, or Lori's the person you really want to be talking to on this one.
So for volunteers, who's that name?
That's Lori.
Okay. Call Lori.
Just say, I want to volunteer, and be like, okay, we will put you in touch with Lori.
And there are plenty of rocks to pick up.
Picking them up, putting them down, we need it daily.
What kind of research do you do then here?
So that's a great question. We do many kinds of research, and we do our own research in-house. So our curator of paleontology, Dr. Melissa Gray, she does her own research, and I'll talk on that in a minute. We also try to facilitate research from other universities and professionals. So we may research one specific thing here, or our staff might, but then we also want to foster other people, other scientists coming in and doing their research. As far as research that we do, my coworker Melissa, she works on what's known as ostracods, so these very, very tiny hard-shelled creatures. One thing, and I'm probably just ruining her research by trying to explain it, but essentially looking at the shells and seeing if these creatures changed over the millions of years or whether they didn't, and what that means for the climate, the ecosystem, and them in general.
For a layman, she studies old crabs?
Yeah, that's actually I'm going to put that on her business card. That's actually a very apt way of putting it, yeah. The other one is a student of ours, Max Chipman, studies fish poop, known as coprolites.
Oh, there's a name for it.
There is a fancy name for it, and when he's explaining it, he doesn't say fish poop, he says fish dung, trying to elevate the subject a little bit, but essentially he's looking through it and trying to find out what these fish were eating and seeing if there's anything that hasn't been digested that he can look at and study and say, oh, this is what they're eating, this is what was in the water at the time.
It's like prehistoric aquaponics?
If that's the word for it. Again, not to beat the Jurassic Park too much, but it's kind of like that scene where he's going through the dung with his hands. Only Max uses a microscope and his tongue. I'm kidding. But that's the joke. I'm like, does this taste like coprolite? Yeah.
I heard that our friend Brian, who hangs out at Fundy Treasures, has done a little bit of...
He has an amazing eye for finding fossils. I don't follow what his research is so much, but I do know that he recently found a really exciting tree trunk that is believed to have bones in it. This is just me kind of paraphrasing what I understand of the situation, but he found the tree trunk in the cliffs, and then as pieces of it were coming out, he was collecting them, making sure that they were kept safe. And that's what we do here. We don't actually actively dig into the cliffs. We wait for things to come out naturally, safer that way. And that was the last I heard on that project. But yeah, it was exciting, the idea of maybe the next Hylonomus is in that tree somewhere.
How high are these cliffs?
The cliffs, let's just say 2 school buses at the highest. Yeah, there you go. That'll make that up.
And at the very top, that's usually where you see the tree trunks.
Oftentimes you'll see them higher up, although there is a spot where you can see one right at the very tide level. But when it's higher up, they usually stay in the cliffs longer because the Bay of Fundy isn't pushing into them. But absolutely, you'll see them at all levels, but they seem to preserve better a little higher up.
And it really is no joke when they say that every day there are new discoveries. Because we were out here, I believe it was on the weekend, and then Tuesday there was this violent surge in the ocean.
Oh yeah.
Because it's usually dead calm here, and that day it was very rough, and we walked out after that, and the changes was phenomenal.
Absolutely. Our beach tours change from week to week because of what can be seen or what can't be seen. It's amazing what you'll see that's coming out of the cliffs every year.
Do you ever come up empty?
No, never. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, I wish that tree were still here because it was so big and beautiful and robust. But oftentimes you'll find another tree that may not be as exciting, but you can still have the same teachable moment with it.
So it's not like hunting where you can go, even though you've seen 100 deer during the summer, you go hunting season and there's not a single one.
It's not like that at all. The hard part is, and this is the part that I can't predict, is I can't say, Thor, go down on the beach and go 40 meters to the right and you're going to see this tree. I can't do it. I can only say, there's a tree in there somewhere, Thor.
And there is. We've seen a few.
Absolutely.
When people come here and they park, is there anything else to do in this area that you would recommend, since you did grow up here?
Actually, there's more to do and see now than ever. There's various gift shops. The local restaurant, the Bayview restaurant, was renovated, so that's a nice spot to eat. The area has become very developed, and it's great to see that.
I heard a B&B is on its way.
That's it. Desperately needed. If someone would say, Jordan, what do you need for Joggins? I would say overnight accommodations, and whether that's a park, a campground, or a B&B. So very happy with that. Very exciting. I heard that recently opened up as well. And we hope to make a huge success of it, and we'll be happy to support that because Joggins area needs that. I have tourists ask me every single day, where can I stay overnight?
And the closest place is really Amherst.
For the most part, yeah. There's also another B&B in Napan, Country Styles, and they've been good to us and we've been good to them. It's kind of unfortunate when people drive from Amherst to Joggins and they say, where's the closest place to stay? And we say, well, you can go on to Advocate, which is great. I love sending people down there, but that's like an hour down the road. Or saying go back to Amherst, and that's kind of unfortunate. So now we can say, yeah, there's a place in Joggins that you can stay.
When you're talking about having to drive an hour to Advocate or backtrack in most cases to Amherst, which is at least half an hour.
That's right.
That may not be what they have in mind when the sun is going down.
No, and often the backtracking thing, it leaves a bitter taste. Yeah, I can see the expression. They're kind of crestfallen at that idea, so they want to camp now. Yeah. They want to break now.
I also thought a really good coffee shop would be in order in this area too.
One right out in the kitchen.
Your coffee is good.
It is good. No, but something all year long. For instance, our cafe is only open from like Victoria Day to Labor Day. There's that shameless plug. But yes, another coffee shop. Although there is a service station, I believe, that does good coffee. But I know what you mean, like a local meeting area.
Cafe boutique.
Yep.
Some place where people can gaze at whatever they gaze at, enjoy their coffee, have a little croissant or pastry.
That's it. I hope someone does that. Me personally, as Jordan LeBlanc sitting here, I'd love to see someone open up a craft brewery. But that's just me saying someone should make that happen.
I did.
Nice. Share the wealth.
Well, it's not all official yet, but you're welcome to come over for a brew anytime.
I love it.
I do that home brew.
Excellent.
And at times I actually have more beer than I have bottles for.
I'd be happy to help you solve that problem.
Okay, well, you're definitely invited, Jordan. We were talking about this wonderful experience that we have hidden in Cumberland County, which few businesses have called the Loop.
Yeah, I've heard it called the Loop, the Triangle, the Mini Golden Horseshoe, Mini Cabot Trail.
For those who don't know or who have never experienced it, it's a desolate drive, as someone explained it to me. A beautiful but desolate drive.
Rugged.
After half an hour, my father-in-law said, aren't there any cars on this road? It's that type of experience, but it is sheer beauty. And we're talking the loop that starts off, I guess it would be McCann.
Probably begin it by getting off the highway to Amherst, and then you're right, continuing through McCann, hitting up River Hibbert Joggins, carrying along down the shore down to Advocate, Cape Chignecto, so basically that point of
Apple River,
great swim spot. Don't know if I can say that, but
and the provincial parks there, unbelievable.
Absolutely. We're huge fans of Cape Chignecto and their recent innovations and improvements.
Eatonville, Three Sisters.
That's the Eatonville Center. That's what I was talking about with their recent innovations. It's great that you can actually see Three Sisters without going on a 3-day hike. So
yeah. The area in between is largely a game sanctuary.
That's right. Preserved, space.
And then when you get out of it, you hit Advocate, Wild Caraway.
That's right, yeah.
Cape Door
Lighthouse, yeah. Diligent River, Spencer's Island, Ottawa House is all along that drive as you're going from Advocate to Parsborough.
Then there's Parsborough, and then it loops around again, coming up close to Spring Hill.
if I could have any wish, it's that's what visitors and tourists would do, would be to go on that loop and hit up at Spring Hill.
The Anne Murray Center and the
Thor Mine, yeah, the Thor Mine, very powerful stuff.
Is there a tour of any mines in Joggins? Because Joggins was a huge mining town.
It was a huge mining town, but unfortunately, no. The coal mines of Joggins, no safe access. It hasn't been developed. A couple different reasons. Spring Hill is more about drilling deep into the earth, whereas Joggins is a little bit more on the horizontal side as far as going in underneath the bay.
But you've got coal ridges that you can get to from the beach. I mean,
even just standing
massive.
on the beach, you can stand on coal seams and pick it up and take a picture of it.
And I must warn you, because we were told when we were doing our tour, do not go in the mine.
That's it. So I don't want to make this sound too exciting, but there is some pit props to an old drainage shaft, and some years it's quite exposed and we have to put caution tape up and let people know not to enter. It's very dangerous. Other years it's collapsed, so it's a dangerous spot, but that's what lets all the water run out of the mine shafts onto the beach and bay.
In general, stay away from the cliffs, or at least look up.
That's what we recommend. We have rock falls every single day, and we say a car length away from the cliffs, if possible. For instance, we had that rain a couple weeks back that was very torrential, and we were having like almost mudslides coming down. It was a beautiful thing to see, but not something you want to be close to.
But then there are all those fossils as a result.
And that's exciting. That's the exciting part, is waiting for the dust to settle and to comb through it and see what can be found.
Well, Jordon, it's been a pleasure talking to you, but tell people how they can get a hold of you, or how they can contact the museum for information. Where? Facebook?
We have a active Facebook account, just Joggins Fossil Cliffs on Facebook. We have a website, jogginsfossilcliffs.net. If you want to get a hold of me directly, just put operations at jogginsfossilcliffs.net. That'll get you a hold of me. My phone number, the only one I really know, is 902-251-2727, extension 222. A lot of twos in there. We even have a Twitter that I try not to ignore as much as I do, but it unfortunately gets away from me.
Well, thank you very much, Jordon.
Thank you, Thor.
Thanks for your time. I know you're busy. You got an appointment waiting for you.
Okay, time has run out. If you'd like to contact us, our email is scotiaheritageproductions@gmail.com.
When it comes to local business, arts, crafts, and entertainment, we'll try our best to provide a global perspective on our community and remind listeners that where one regularly chooses to spend their money is often much more powerful than the occasional vote at the ballot box.
So, help out your talented neighbors and enjoy the unique diversity of what Cumberland, Westmoreland has to offer. And ultimately, you'll be helping yourself. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Exploring the Neighborhood is sponsored by Kansa, your Careers Nova Scotia Centre.
So, tune in next week for another episode of Exploring the Neighborhood with your hosts, Thor and Debbie, here on CICR 99.1 on your FM dial.